Is a 305 worth building, or is it just a boat anchor? Let's get into it. Hey, welcome to Square Body Stuff. I'm Chad. We're just going to hang out in the shop today and have a little discussion about the 305 Chevy. First off, Happy New Year, everybody. This will be the first video of the new year on Square Body Stuff channel. I do have another channel I've started up, so go check that out. It's called Regular Stuff. Pretty original, huh? Go check that out. I'll put a description or a link to that in the description box down below. And while you're down there, check out my Teespring store to check out some of my merchandise. I've got coffee cups, hoodies, t-shirts, leggings if you're into leggings. Quite a few designs and everything, so go check that out. That helps out fund some of the projects on this channel. And also don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, ring that bell. That'll give you notifications whenever I put new videos out. Also give us a comment. Let me know what you think. If you got any ideas on some future videos, just let me know. If there's stuff you want to see, I'll try to work that in. Alright, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this video. The 305 Chevy. Do you love them? Do you hate them? I'll give you some of my opinions and some facts about them. So first off, let's have a little history about the 305 Chevy. Originally came out in 1976, designed as just a schmog motor. Nothing more, nothing less, just a motor to get your vehicle around. They came out in cars, trucks, vans, about everything GM had to offer at that point in time that had a V8 in it. Now they lasted all the way up till the late 90s until they were all phased out, and with the 350s they phased out with the LS based motors. Now they did have a few HO versions throughout the years. In your Camaros and Corvettes, possibly Monte Carlos also, and Firebirds. Now I'm not real sure about the Corvettes. I think I remember seeing where they had a few in Corvettes, but not really too worried about that. You guys can do your own research on that topic. All right, some of my personal experiences with the 305, actually most of them have been pretty positive. I built a couple 305s for some guys with derby cars. They tend to really love them because they're easy to come by. They'll make plenty of power for a derby car, and they seem like if you overheat them, you just let them cool down and they'll take right back off and be just fine. One of my other experiences with the 305 I built was the Jeepster Commando. Is a rock crawler, full-on rock crawler build. The guy had a 305 to put in it, and tried to talk him out of that just to go ahead and do a 350, but the 305 actually had some sentimental value to him. Apparently it came out of his grandma's car or something like that. Really low miles. He agreed to, told me just go ahead and go through it just to make sure everything was okay with it. So I pulled it apart. Cylinders still have, standard cylinders. It was never been rebuilt. It's cross-hatched from the factory. Looked brand new on the inside, so put new gaskets, intake, headers, a little bit bigger camshaft in it, something to match what the performance level for that vehicle needed. And I tell you what, that 305, it was pretty impressive for what it was. Now a 350, obviously, would have been just a little bit better. But most people, I doubt that if you drove that vehicle, you would be able to tell the difference. With that said, I've had some positive stuff going on with these 305s. Still not my favorite motor, but they can be fun. So it's your judgment on whether you really want to build one or not, or do something with the one you have. So what makes a 305 a 305, and why is it different than a 350? Well, the only difference between them is the bore size. Your 350 has a 4-inch bore. Your 305 has a 3.736-inch bore. They share the same stroke. As a matter of fact, as far as I can tell, the resources that I go through, all your 305 crankshafts have the same casting number and are used in 350s. Now, where I go to get that information is a place called moretech.com. Go check them out. I will put a link to their website in the description box below. You can go check them out. They have all sorts of casting numbers for crankshafts, blocks, cylinder heads, a lot of data for small block and big block Chevys. And I've been using them for probably over 20 years. Actually, before I had access to the internet, I had their books. They had some little white books that had suffix codes, casting numbers, and what have you. The big difference between the 305 and 350 obviously is the bore size. Now, we're not going to get into cylinder head difference. That's a whole nother discussion. I may go over my opinions and stuff on the cylinder heads, 350 versus 305 cylinder heads, but we're not going to get into that in this video. That's a whole nother discussion. The biggest drawback to a 305 and trying to make power with it is the small bore size. The reason that bore size is such a drawback is because of your valve placement in the cylinder head. You can only run up to like a 194 valve before you start having interference with the valve and your actual cylinder on your block. Now, you can't change the bore size other than the certain amount for overboring, your standard 30 over, 40 over, 60 over. You can't do much there, but you can stroke at 305. If you want to spend the extra money, you can do that. Now, a 30 over 305 with a 3750 crank in it out of a 400 small block will give you the displacement of a 334. This is the same as if you do the same crankshaft in a 350, you get to 383. The reason they go 30 over is because typically by the time you're putting a stroker crankshaft into one of these engines, it's probably going to be at least 30 overboard. Now, is it worth doing this to a 305? That's kind of up to you. Just personal preference. I have read some articles on the internet and some magazines of people building little 334 strokers, and they seem to do really well. They're never going to be a 383. Pretty much the same as a 305 is never going to be 350. There's just enough of a displacement difference and mechanical advantages and stuff with the 350 that the 305 will never be able to make up for. Why would a guy even want to build a 305, whether it's a stroker or a standard stroke crank? There are some classes in drag racing, maybe even circle track. I'm not real sure about that, but there are some classes that have a rule. You have to run a 305, or you have to run the engine that the car came out with originally. I have had several comments from some of those guys that build 305s to drag race with, and they're a drag race only engine. They run them in the certain classes. They've given me some tips and tricks because these guys know these engines in and out. Now, I have considered of building a 334 stroker to put in my step side, this truck up here, which has currently got a 305 in it. If you're interested in what's going on with that truck, I'll put a link to the playlist up here in one of these corners. It'll pop up, and you go to that playlist and get caught up on what all I'm doing with that truck. It does have a 305 and an SM 465 4-speed. The main reason for even doing that is because that's what the truck had, and I wanted to kind of show that you can have fun with the 305, and I've had a blast with that truck. It's probably the most fun truck I've ever had, because really I just don't care if that 305 blows up or not. And that's probably the reason why I've got a 250 shot of nitrous running to it now too. Even with the nitrous, they're tough. They still just keep on taking whatever you give to them. So go check out that playlist. You can see what I'm doing with that truck. I've got a lot of plans for this year for that truck. Just for fun. It's not trying to make the world's fastest truck, just trying to have fun and show people that you can just have fun with what you have. So those are some of the basics of the 305 versus 350 discussion. I have been told in the past by certain gearheads that when I told them I had a 305 that you could take 350 heads and put them on my 305 and I would have a 350. I'm not sure how that works. If you ever hear that, that's not how it works. You can't change displacement with cylinder heads. You can change compression ratio, but you can't change your actual displacement. That comes with your bore and stroke. Now we get to some of the comments and stuff we see on Facebook. We've all seen them. We've all seen the post about, I've got a 305. Is there any way to get more power out of it? My answer to that is always yes. Of course, I always post a few links to my YouTube channel showing what I've done with my 305. And the reason I say yes, go for it, is my opinion. If you have a good running 305, nothing wrong with it other than it's underpowered. They respond really well to the same things that 350 any other engine responds really well to. Intake, headers, camshaft. If you want to put the money into it, you can put some cylinder heads on them. But just your three basics, cam, intake, and headers, they really do respond very well to them. And with those upgrades, you can have the fun factor. And while you're having fun with that motor, you could be building your next motor, you know, a 350, 383, big block, whatever you want to build, or LS swap it if you want to go that route. We won't get into that either. And another thing I think a lot of people don't take in consideration when a guy asked about getting power out of 305, they may not have the budget to find a whole nother motor. That may be all they could afford at that point in time. All right, this is just going to be a little bit of a rant. Stick with me. I may ruffle some feathers, but I really don't care at this point. Those of us out there, or those of you out there that have the information, have good information, have been there, done that, let's step it up and do a little bit better with these guys that don't have that. The guys are trying to get into this, trying to figure out, you know, how to go get some more power out of whatever they have. I don't care if it's a straight 6. You know, if they want more power out of what they have, give that information. If you don't want to give that information, if you just want to put them down, just step away. That's all there is to it. You don't have to respond with a negative comment. A little fun ribbing, LS swap it, I get it. It's kind of all in good fun. But putting a guy down and trashing his whole idea, it just don't set well with me. My take on it is hot rodding in general, back in its glory days, it was taking whatever you can find and whatever you can afford, slap it together, put it together to make some horsepower, make some power, make some fun. And that's what we're losing these days. Everybody wants to put down everybody else's stuff because they don't have the highest dollar build. With all that said, let's just help these guys out that are trying to figure this out. Let's have a better car community. It doesn't just have to be square bodies. It's all over. You know, get these car shows, get these drag strips, get these things filled back up like they used to be. You know, if a guy needs a hand, give him a hand. That's all there is to it. That's what this community is about. All right, so I'm gonna jump off that bandwagon. I could go on and on about that because it really does frustrate me. All right, so I'm gonna wrap this video up. Basically, my opinion, if a 350 or a 305 is what you have in your vehicle and you want to put some money into, you know, intake, headers, camshaft, maybe some valve springs, you know, the kind of simple basic stuff, go for it. You'll be surprised, and you'll surprise a lot of people with what your little 305 can do. So there's some facts and some opinions about the 305. Love them, hate them, it's all up to you. So I'm gonna end it off here. Till next time, y'all keep your square bodies rolling. Let's just take care of each other.